Welcome to Think, Build, Scale, a podcast that disrupts conventional consulting businesses. Because in this podcast, you get a lot more than your typical consultant, and all of that for free. All you need to do is provide some time and attention, which of course is the most valuable asset of an entrepreneur. Hence, if you're new to this podcast, I want to explain the flow of the episodes. Each month, a new topic will be discussed. This month, it is hydrogen automotives. Each topic will contain 3 episodes. Before I go ahead, I want to bring to your attention that no company secrets or confidentiality agreements have been or will be violated consciously while recording the episodes of this podcast. Everything presented here is an amalgamation of knowledge and experiences from various industries and trainings that I have had so far. The information presented here, to the best of my knowledge, does not overlap with any confidential information that would fall within the trade secrets of any of the companies that I have non-disclosure agreements with within the last 2 decades. Coming back to the introduction, there is actually an introductory video for this podcast, and that video will tell you how my target audience is those interested to form a strong foundation for one's venture. Today is the second topic for my podcast. There will be 3 episodes for this topic of hydrogen-fueled automotives. The first episode, which is this one, is going to talk about how to break into the market of hydrogen automotives by crafting a winning plan that suits the current state of the company that you are in or you're forming. Episode 2 will show how to develop a concept, generate interests from your investors, get that concept to an actual working prototype, and thereafter show further strategies to organize your company by hiring the right people with the right expertise. Episode 3 talks a lot about overcoming the operational challenges towards a cheaper hydrogen-based automotive use cases. This episode is all about understanding market demand. Why hydrogen? Why now? What are the market trends, regulations, and industry gaps? Now, capital requirements. Funding these sources, partnerships, and having a go-to-market strategies are equally important for startups as well as for a small medium enterprise. For the purposes of let's classify 3 organizations. First, which will be a startup just freshly starting in the market of automotives. Second is an SME growing in the world of making and selling automotives. An example of such an SME is your Koda Automotives, who developed lithium iron phosphate battery-based electric cars recently. Then you have an established organization compared to that can be comparable to Volkswagen, Toyota, or Honda. So throughout the series, we will classify the information on how these 3 types of companies can use the knowledge from this podcast into their respective business scenarios. No matter what state and size your company is in, for breaking into and in fact creating the market for hydrogen automotives, a competitive edge is needed both for electric and gasoline automotives in terms of efficiency, cost, design, sustainability, and serviceability. We will talk about all the existing regulatory hurdles and lack of government incentives that discourage customers to buy hydrogen-fueled cars. After all, electric cars became a norm only recently, even though all the stigma of low mileage around them, only because many countries subsidize the purchase and customers simply got into the train of FOMO, which is the fear of missing out on getting a subsidy for owning a vehicle. So yes, the government regulations and incentives are a big advantage for your automotive company, for your organization. Let's start with understanding the market opportunities of a hydrogen-based car. Why hydrogen and why now? Hydrogen is at a turning point in 2025 due to multiple converging factors. Global net zero commitments. Many governments, including the EU government, the different countries of EU, US, China, and India are pushing for a shift to hydrogen as part of decarbonization goals. Regulatory and policy support. Policies are favoring green hydrogen over fossil fuel alternatives, with increasing penalties on emissions. Fuel cell technology has become more cost efficient, and hydrogen storage and distribution infrastructure is also growing quite rapidly. We'll talk about that more. Heavy transport, which are like trucks, buses, trains, shipping, they're adopting hydrogen faster than passenger vehicles due to range and refueling advantages, or at least potential advantages. Major fossil fuel companies are investing in hydrogen energy because they want to ensure their infrastructure is being able to adapt to the future demands of the market, which is actually in clean energy, such as hydrogen. Let's talk about market trends, regulations, and industry gaps a little. Market trends. Green hydrogen production is becoming cost competitive with blue and gray hydrogen. Growing demand for hydrogen powered commercial fleets. They have really increased, and they have increased more in logistics, aviation, and maritime. Hydrogen fuel trucks and buses have gained traction in regions with zero emission mandates. Decentralized hydrogen production and refueling hubs are emerging to reduce logistic costs. Regulations and industry gaps. Well, stringent safety and storage regulations exist but are still evolving. Certification for fuel cell vehicle, FCV, components remain a big hurdle. Infrastructure development is slower than what the demand is. And there is a gap in skilled hydrogen workforce and supply chain readiness. But given all these challenges that we see, this podcast will talk about how your environment or how your company should be and what your plans should be for your startup or your SME or your established organization that wants to go towards a hydrogen automotive economy. Well, a starting plan for a startup that has no brand name or any kind of support. Let's talk about that a little bit. Here I mentioned how much capital in your slide you would see if you're a startup, how much capital would you need? For prototype development alone, you would need up to around 5 million, depending on whether you are developing a fuel cell system or a hybrid solution for your vehicle. Your infrastructure and testing requirements will cost you almost up to 10 million for your early stage deployment of refueling solutions that will have to comply with regulatory hindrances and regulatory compliances. And your market launching and scaling will take you up to definitely more than 50 million for expanding your operations, supply chain, and manufacturing. So we are really not talking about small scale businesses. This is really, when I say my podcast and my specialization is on capital equipment, I really mean it. I mean capital equipment. I mean high value equipment, which will demand a large R&D investment on it. Well, a starting plan for a startup that will have no brand name or support. Starting a hydrogen automotive company from scratch in 2025 presents both significant challenges and opportunities. While established players and governments are driving the hydrogen economy, startups can actually carve out unique niches by focusing on innovation, cost reductions, and market specific solutions. Here is a structured approach from my side for a hydrogen startup to break into the market. If you want me to go deeper with your managing director, with your startup, with your investors, let me know and I can elaborate further on this plan. But here is an approach, step-by-step approach. Number one would be to identify a niche and define a clear value proposition. A startup should not aim to compete directly with your major automakers like Toyota or Hyundai or Nikola. Nikola, they're producing hydrogen trucks. These companies, they work in mass market fuel cell vehicles. Instead, your startup should focus on emerging niches where innovation can be disruptive. Potential startup niches in hydrogen automotive could be your last mile delivery vehicles that are like small cargo vans or light trucks for urban logistics. Heavy duty commercial trucks, focusing on specific segments like mining, refrigerated transport, or waste collection. Specialized industrial vehicles like hydrogen forklifts, which are very low mileage, they don't need that much of range. Your airport ground support vehicles or construction machineries. These are all specialized industrial vehicles that require very low mileage. Hydrogen retrofitting solutions. Your startup can work towards converting existing diesel trucks to hydrogen powered engines by providing retrofit solutions. I think you're in a good path. And then hydrogen fueling as a service. Now, this is really interesting. A lot of people don't think about it, but starting your own hydrogen gas station, hydrogen station, is going to be a mega billion-dollar business in the upcoming 20 to 30 years. Now, as a startup, think about this. If you have mobile hydrogen refueling units for specific regions, you really have a winning strategy in your hands. So to summarize again, your potential startup. So here's the thing, to summarize on identifying a niche and defining a clear value proposition, here are my tips for your startup. Here are certain niches that I have figured out for your hydrogen automotive startup. Number one would be small cargo vans or light trucks. Number two would be heavy duty commercial trucks that are focusing on specific segments like mining, refrigerated transport, or waste collection. These are all industries that would appreciate clean energy usage from the public. Third is specialized industrial vehicles that are low mileage. Things like hydrogen forklifts, airport ground support vehicles, construction machineries, etc. Your fourth type of business could be your hydrogen retrofitting solutions to existing trucks and existing vehicles. And the fifth one is hydrogen fueling as a service itself. So yes, start with one product and focus on one niche, and then you can scale your market, scale your business to the market. I already discussed a little bit about the capital requirements and funding strategies. As you can see in the slide as well, you will need around 5 million for prototype development, a bit more than 8 to 9 million for infrastructure and testing. And then the most amount of money that you will be spending on is expanding your operations, supply chain, and manufacturing for scaling your business. How do you get the funding? Like, it's easy to say, easy to give these numbers, but how do you actually get these fundings? Well, since most startups do not have established revenues, funding should be diversified. Government grants and subsidies is an option. Hydrogen-specific accelerators and venture capitalist firms are also an option, but be careful with those. Strategic industry partnerships are very, very lucrative. And of course, you can look for corporate and angel investors. Let's break it down step by step. If you go with government grants and subsidies, for US, you have Department of Energy for your hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. They are actually giving out official grants for startups. For EU, you have Horizon, which is Europe's hydrogen project and the Hydrogen Bank initiative. India is developing national green hydrogen mission incentives. China is providing provincial government subsidies for hydrogen startups. So you see, there are opportunities. You just have to go and chase them from the government itself. And if there are no such opportunities in your country or in your continent, it's time you speak up. It's time you make it aware. We are living in a democratic world. It's time to make the government work for the company. Hydrogen specific accelerators and venture capitalists, as I mentioned earlier, you have AP Ventures. They are a hydrogen focused venture capitalist firm. You have Breakthrough Energy Ventures, that is actually Bill Gates' climate fund. And you have Shell Ventures, which is actually an energy startup investment itself. Now, I am not affiliated to any of these accelerators or venture capitalists. I'm a venture firms. I'm simply mentioning them as an information for your startup. If you are a startup, it's also very important to look at strategic industry partnerships. So your OEM manufacturers are always looking for innovative partners. Hydrogen producers who need technology partners to scale fuel demand. They're always looking for companies like you who would be developing niche hydrogen automotives. Fleets are always looking for early adopters, and always talk to investors that specialize in clean tech, mobility, and deep tech startups. Actionable step. Now apply for at least 3 hydrogen startup accelerator programs and seek early grant funding before raising capitals, please. That's a tip from my side. If you want to think more about strategic partnerships, always remember that the key is survival. Since a hydrogen startup lacks brand recognition and credibility, partnerships are quite essential for early stage traction. You can have fuel cell and hydrogen tech providers, and you can talk to them for collaboration with hydrogen fuel cell manufacturing instead of developing everything in-house. Examples of those are Ballard Power, Plug Power, Nuvera. Hydrogen producers and suppliers. It is time to think about forming alliances. If you are a startup in hydrogen automotive, it is really high time to think about forming alliances with green hydrogen production companies like Linde, Air Liquide, Nel Hydrogen. And it's also important for you to develop a fuel guarantee agreement to ensure supply, which means that if you develop a hydrogen automotive, it is important to be aware that your car can be refueled in various different gas stations or a network of gas stations, so that your consumers are able to have guarantee on being able to refuel their cars. So how to get about that? Go to Linde, Air Liquide, Nel Hydrogen, and form alliances with them. That's what I'm talking about. Early adopters and pilot customers. Now, please try to think about this. Partner up with companies that will need clean fleet solutions. DHL, Amazon, Walmart, FedEx. These are what? These are logistic companies, and they are coming under a lot of heat on climate awareness. So if you as a startup, you're able to cater towards these fleet companies, these fleet solutions, I think you're really hitting a sweet spot there in terms of where the world, where different countries, different government wants to go. That is towards net zero carbon emission. Offering pilot programs for logistics, public transport, or municipal fleets. That's probably a trick you can apply to your startup. Universities and research labs. Please do not forget to try and knock in the doors of these research laboratories that can collaborate with you for developing prototype and for testing the prototype by using government grants that are generally granted to PhD or postdoc researchers. Please do leverage academia for advanced R&D support. Generally, startups do not want to go towards academia and R&D, mostly because PhDs and postdocs and master's students alike, they want to publish their research, and startups want to keep the knowledge hidden. But think about it. There are different ways to have mutual benefits, both for academia and for industry. One of them is a strong NDA, and publications are absolutely important for the career of the academics. But the most important thing for the academics is to have real world work experience, and your startup is actually giving them that experience. Have a good discussion with these institutes and try to figure out a mutually beneficial plan. If you need any consultation on this particular topic on how to exactly approach academia, or if you are an academia research partner but you want to join hands with the industry, please do give me a call to make a win-win proposal for both the parties. A startup should focus on early traction and proof of concept before large-scale manufacturing. Stage 1 is pilot deployment. which takes around 0 to 2 years. Build a functional prototype with basic hydrogen storage and fuel cell integration. Now, this is where you can use your academic partners to build a functional prototype and talk more to your investors or to the government or to even consumers directly. After you build a functional prototype, secure 1 or 2 commercial partners that are willing to test hydrogen vehicles in a real world setting. Focus on fleet operators. That's my personal suggestion to you, but feel free to think about other applications as well. So focus on fleet operators like trucking, logistics, industrial machinery, rather than consumer cars, because remember, consumer cars always need long mileage, but your logistics, your fleet operations, where you have logistics services and your industry machineries, they need rather low mileage than your average consumer cars. Use government grants and corporate funding for initial deployment. Stage 2 would be scaling up your production. This will generally take 2 to 5 years. I would say it could even go up to 10 years. Establish contract manufacturing partnerships instead of setting up an expensive production plant yourself. Develop a modular vehicle platform that allows customization for different industries. Expand into hydrogen refueling solutions. Stage 3 would be mass market expansion. And this can go definitely for more than 5 years. I mean, it never stops. Scalability of your business never stops. Scale with large corporate buyers in public transport, logistics, and industrial mobility. Consider global expansions in markets with strong hydrogen incentives like EU, Japan, US, and Australia. Establish a direct business-to-business sales model targeting fleet operators. Actionable step. Secure an early adopter fleet customer within the first 24 months to gain market credibility. Overcome the biggest challenges for a hydrogen startup. How to do that? Well, your challenge 1 is your high initial cost. Challenge 2 is lack of challenge 3 is competing with EVs, battery electric vehicles. Challenge 4 is regulatory and safety compliance. So challenge 1, which is your initial high cost, can be solved with partnerships with government-backed hydrogen infrastructure projects and leveraging VC capital. It's very easy to say, but a very, very difficult stage for you. I understand that. Any help from my side that I can provide on this, any research, any market analysis, any technical insights, do contact. Do not do this by yourself. Challenge 2 is lack of hydrogen refueling stations. The solution is to offer mobile or localized hydrogen refueling solutions to early adopters. Challenge 3 is competing with battery EVs, that is your electric vehicles that you see today. And your solution is to focus on heavy duty, long range, or industrial applications where BEVs struggle. That is your battery electronic vehicles struggle today. Challenge 4 is your regulatory and safety compliances. So work with hydrogen industry groups and hydrogen and energy association, etc. in your country. Work together with them and make sure you use proper standards for environmental regulations, please. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about clean energy and net zero carbon emission. To summarize my topic on how, as a startup, how to have a winning formula for your hydrogen market entry. Number 1 is to find a unique niche. Avoid mass market competition. Focus on commercial and industrial applications. Number 2, raise smart capital. Leverage grants, leverage hydrogen specific venture capitalist firms, leverage your corporate investments, leverage partnerships. Number 3 is actually securing key partnerships. Please collaborate with fuel cell makers, hydrogen producers, and early adopter fleets. Number 4, validate and deploy early. Get a prototype running, use academic partners, find a fleet partner for testing, and go for it from here on. Scale through contract manufacturing. Avoid CapEx, avoid capital expenditure. Avoid heavy production setups early on and use the manufacturing lines available already at some partner of yours. Remember these things. It's all about partnerships. It's all about strategy. It's all about collaborating with the right people. So your first mover advantage as a hydrogen startup, as a hydrogen automotive startup, is that the hydrogen market in 2025 is still in its early growth phase, meaning well-funded startups can position themselves as leaders in specific hydrogen vehicle applications. Winning plan for an SME with an existing brand in related sectors. Now, an SME that has already had a recognized brand, supply chain experience, and an existing product lines has an advantage over startups when entering the hydrogen automotive market. However, the transition to hydrogen requires a well-structured approach to avoid financial strain and ensure market adoption. This plan will focus on leveraging brand credibility, scaling with strategic partnerships, and entering the hydrogen market with calculated steps. What are these steps? Number one would be to identify the right hydrogen market entry strategy. As an SME, you need to decide whether to convert an existing product line to hydrogen powered alternatives, or do you want to do you want to create an entire new product line itself. So if your company manufactures, for example, if your company manufactures diesel trucks, you can actually think about retrofitting them with hydrogen powertrains. If your company produces heavy machineries, you can think about developing hydrogen fueled versions of the heavy machinery. A lot of the components will remain similar, but certain things on the engine and on the battery, on the fuel system will change. And we will talk more about the various subsystems in your hydrogen automotive in the second episode. And we will really show how to build the automotive from scratch. All right. Number two would be to expand into hydrogen vehicle component manufacturing. If your company builds electrical systems for automotive, specialization in hydrogen compatible power electronics would not be a bad idea. Number three would be to develop hydrogen fueling solutions or infrastructure. If your company is in fuel logistics, transitioning to hydrogen refueling stations is a good idea for entry into the market. Offering a hybrid solution that integrates hydrogen with existing technologies. If your company has experience in battery technology, create a hydrogen battery hybrid powertrain. That's a fantastic step towards getting an entry into the hydrogen automotive market. Conduct an internal feasibility study to determine the best market entry point based on your expertise and your existing assets. If your company does not fall into any of these groups, you can contact me and we can sit down together to figure out how to create an entry strategy into the hydrogen automotive market for your SME. How much capital is actually needed? Well, yeah, we're not talking about low numbers here. Hydrogen vehicle retrofitting. Well, you would need around, if you're an SME and you want to transition towards a hydrogen vehicle retrofitting model, I think you would need around 10 million euro to look at how to retrofit certain parts, certain components into the hydrogen automotive system. Fuel cell vehicle development, that will take around 10 to 50 million. Component manufacturing expansion, because you will have to expand your production line, that can go up to 15 million. Hydrogen infrastructure refueling network, well, yeah, that will go from 10 to 50 million dollars, and I would really request you not to even think about refueling infrastructure on your own as an SME. Always partner up with existing companies. And we will talk more about them in the second episode. Where to get the funding? As I mentioned earlier, for the startups, you can get your funding through government grants and incentives. You can always look for strategic industry partners, and you can always look at investment funds through different venture capitalist firms that are out there that are very specialized in clean energy. Of course, always try and think about bank loans and corporate bonds as well. Low interest green energy loans are actually available in many countries. So your actionable step here in securing funding would be apply for at least one government grant and one industry partnership in the next 12 months. Strengthening partnerships and supply chain integration. Well, unlike startups, SMEs generally have an advantage in forming partnerships due to established credibility. However, new collaborations will be required for hydrogen supply, fuel cell technology, and regulatory compliance. Who do you partner up with? You can partner up with fuel cell and powertrain suppliers like Ballard Power Systems in Canada, Plug Power in US, and your Nuvera fuel cells. Again, I am not being sponsored by these organizations. This is purely my research. Hydrogen suppliers and infrastructure partners are Linde, Air Liquide, Nel Hydrogen, and Shell Hydrogen. Automakers and fleet operators, you have Daimler Trucks, you have Volvo, Tesla Semi. Try and collaborate with these companies that need hydrogen vehicle solutions from you. Form pilot agreements with logistics companies that need fleet decarbonization. Local governments and municipal transport authorities, try to get as much of help and support from them as possible. Do not do this alone, I repeat. Develop hydrogen powered public transport or municipal flights. Governments want to develop hydrogen powered public transport or municipal fleets. Therefore, team up with them, talk to them, form a pilot partnership with them. Number 4, transitioning existing products to hydrogen. How do you do that? An SME's success in hydrogen depends on leveraging existing products and expertise. You can do that by retrofitting existing vehicle lines to hydrogen. Focus on converting diesel vehicles to hydrogen internal combustion or fuel cell systems. Partner up with aftermarket modification specialists to often offer conversion kits. Just an idea, right? Market to logistics and industrial fleets that are looking for low emission solutions without full EV conversion. Hydrogen powered machinery and industrial vehicles. If producing heavy equipment, if you are producing heavy duty equipment, introduce hydrogen powered forklifts, construction machinery, or mining trucks. Component manufacturing for hydrogen vehicles. Well, expand into fuel cell components, hydrogen storage systems, power electronics. Target tier 1 and tier 2 automotive suppliers that need hydrogen compatible parts. Hydrogen fueling infrastructure expansion. If you are in fuel or fuel distribution or logistics, then invest in hydrogen refueling stations. Modular mobile hydrogen stations can serve to early adopter fleets. Your actionable step here would be develop small-scale hydrogen product pilot within 24 months and launch commercially in 3 to 5 years. Go-to-market strategy. You're scaling, if you want to really scale profitably for an SME, the go-to-market strategy should be to minimize upfront risk while leveraging existing brand strength. Stage 1 is pilot projects and fleet testing, which will take around 2 years. Launch limited number of hydrogen-powered vehicles or machinery for pilot customers, secure subsidized fleet adoption in collaboration with the government, focus on B2B sales instead of consumer vehicles. Stage 2 would be expansion to full-scale manufacturing in 2 to 5 years. Establish partnerships with OEMs for large-scale production, secure financing or expanding hydrogen infrastructure support, develop contract manufacturing agreements instead of investing in full production lines. Stage 3 is national and international expansion, which is definitely going to take more than 5 years. scale production with global distribution agreements, enter high growth markets like Europe, Japan, South Korea, and the US, offer hydrogen service and maintenance contracts for long term revenue. Actionable step here is to build a fleet of 10 to 50 pilot vehicles for real world testing before mass production. Number 6, overcoming SME specific challenges in hydrogen expansion. You will have 4 primary challenges as also for a startup. Challenge 1 is high capital investment. Challenge 2 is your refueling infrastructure gaps. Challenge 3 is competition with battery electric vehicles. Challenge 4 is regulatory and compliance safety. So once again, there is all about looking at all these challenges and have strategic plan one by one. For high capital investment, yeah, of course, you have to start with pilot projects and partner up with large manufacturers before committing to full scale production. For infrastructure, for refueling infrastructure gaps, you have to develop on site hydrogen generation or mobile refueling solutions. Your competition from battery electronic vehicles are not going to be that easily solved. So target industries where batteries underperform. They're typically heavy duty transport and industrial machinery. So work on those markets first, and then gradually go up to your consumer cars, consumer automobiles. Regulatory compliance and safety. Well, yeah, of course, you have to work with the directives supported by your company, your region. So good luck with that. What is a winning strategy and an actionable roadmap for an SME? Well, phase 1 is R&D and prototyping, securing funding, developing hydrogen prototype based on existing product lines, form a strategic partnership with fuel cell and hydrogen supply companies. Phase 2 would be market entry and initial sales. That's going to take quite a lot. That's going to take around 5 years, but I would say it could be even more. Launch small batch production with early adopters, enter B2B contracts with logistics, industrial or municipal fleets, expand hydrogen fueling options via partnerships. Phase 3, your mass market expansion, which is over 5 years of work here. Scale with international distribution and manufacturing contracts, offer maintenance and service plans for long-term revenue, secure additional funding for infrastructure expansion. Conclusion: why SMEs have a competitive edge in hydrogen? Well, use your existing brand credibility and use that recognition that you have in your industry to secure partnerships faster than startups. Manufacturing and supply chain expertise, reduce costs as much as possible. Diversification potential, expand into hydrogen, enhances long-term business sustainability. Low risk entry options. SMEs can start with retrofitting, component manufacturing, or pilot projects before committing to full-scale hydrogen vehicle production. Let's look a little bit differently now. How to make a winning plan for an SME by leveraging infrastructure from larger organizations for a stronger market entry. So previously I talked about SMEs, how they can enter the market and how they can start slow and then gradually scale up. Now, what I want to do is I want to emphasize a little bit on being a little bit more aggressive towards leveraging existing infrastructure. As an SME transitioning into hydrogen powered automotive solutions and competing with major corporations is a bit unrealistic. So here's my plan on how you can receive a piggyback ride on existing hydrogen infrastructure by forming strategic alliances and gaining rapid market momentum. Hydrogen fuel networks, your Shell Hydrogen, Air Liquide, Linde, Nel Hydrogen. Try to use these networks that are available. Your fuel cell suppliers like Ballard Power, Plug Power, Nuvera. I already mentioned all these things. I'm just summarizing. I'm just focusing on a summary for how you can leverage existing technologies. your OEMs that are investing in hydrogen vehicles like Toyota, Hyundai, Daimler, Volvo, Nikola, partner up with them. Genuinely mean it. You will really have a much smoother entry into the market. Energy and utility grants from the government, but also energy and utility giants that are already building hydrogen production hubs, partner up with them. Government programs that are funding infrastructure expansion, leverage that. So instead of building from scratch with expanding, integrate with an expanding ecosystem. That would be my suggestion to an SME. If an SME develops hydrogen powered commercial vehicles, they should align refueling strategies, but they should not think about building their own. If you're selecting the right hydrogen market entry point, SME should prioritize compatibility with existing infrastructure while offering value added innovation. The best strategies for SMEs in 2025 is to think about retrofitting your existing vehicles for hydrogen compatibility, developing hydrogen compatible components, integrating with logistics in heavy motor industries, and then finally hydrogen refueling solutions for smaller fleet. What not to do? Don't build a standalone hydrogen production plant or fueling stations. What to do? Leverage government-backed fueling networks and partner with existing hydrogen production sites. And the cost for an SME to break into the market is, I already mentioned that before, it's around 10 million for retrofitting, 5 to 15 million for hydrogen fuel cell component manufacturing. How do you do that? You can be a supplier to your tier 1 or tier automotive suppliers rather than developing your complete vehicles by yourself. And then finally, you look at spending 5 to 20 million for mobile hydrogen fueling units, use government subsidized hydrogen hubs, offer last mile delivery refueling. So partnerships is your best friend when you are an SME and you want to break into the market of hydrogen automotives. How SMEs can secure strategic partnerships and optimize go-to-market strategy in the hydrogen automotive market. For an SME to successfully break into the hydrogen automotive sector, partnerships are the most powerful tool to reduce capital risks. So in your slide, you can see there are various different already existing companies that are working towards hydrogen fuel and refueling infrastructure stations. Actually, hydrogen refueling is a capital intensive challenge and that SMEs should not solve alone. Instead, partner up with companies like Shell, Air Liquide. You can see they are already starting there. You can see in your screen they're already starting their refueling stations here. You can see it's already in front of us. And governments are also funding SMEs. So please do, whichever country you are in, take a look at your government initiatives for decarbonization schemes and for clean energy adoption schemes. How do you secure a partnership? You sign a hydrogen fuels supply agreement with a provider to ensure a stable refueling network. If operating in a country with hydrogen corridor, align fleet deployments along these routes. Offer to pilot refueling infrastructure in niche areas like mining sites, ports, industrial zones. We can plan to deploy hydrogen-powered logistics vehicles. Instead of building our own fueling network, partner with OEMs and automotive manufacturers. So you have Toyota, Hyundai, Daimler, as I mentioned before. Take a piggyback ride on the infrastructure created by these manufacturers so that you have an easier entry point into the market as an SME. For your heavy duty fleet operators, companies like DHL, Amazon, FedEx, Walmart. I'm sort of repeating myself now, but it's essential to get it clear to my audience. So yes, this is your go-to market strategy. Look at the existing technologies, look at the existing refueling infrastructure, partner up with them, go for commercial and niche deployments. And of course, use government funding for your SME as much as possible. Now, a strategic plan for an established automotive industrial company that is transitioning to hydrogen fueled automotives. An established automotive or industrial company looking to transition to hydrogen fueled vehicles as its primary business faces a unique set of challenges and opportunities. Unlike startups or SMEs, these companies have manufacturing capacity, supply chain control, brand recognition, and existing customer relationships, which must be leveraged for a successful hydrogen transition. This strategy focuses on leveraging existing infrastructure, production capabilities, and market position. Phased transition to hydrogen with minimal disruption to existing business operations, and then strategic partnerships to de-risk investment and scale rapidly. Align with government regulations and incentives, please. Why transition to hydrogen? 2025 is really a turning point for various different industries, be it semiconductor or be it automotives or capital equipment in general, even food and your retail. 2025 is where all over the world, every industry is a little bit stringent, and they do not want, they want to globally, the leaders want to reconsider their strategies on reducing cost and scaling up effectively. Stringent regulations demand hydrogen adoption in heavy transport, logistics, rail, maritime, and mining. There are billions in funding available for you to go and snatch for your hydrogen vehicle manufacturing and refueling infrastructure. An early transition secures government support and corporate partnerships while positioning the company as a leader in sustainable mobility. That strategic approach for transitioning to hydrogen as the primary business, while transitioning a legacy automotive or industrial company to a hydrogen first business requires a phased, low risk approach that leverages existing expertise while gradually shifts towards hydrogen adoption. Phase one is your business model shift and market entry strategy. Identify the core hydrogen market segment to target: heavy duty trucks and commercial vehicles, buses and municipal transport fleets, industrial vehicles, hydrogen powered rail, shipping, or aerospace. Leverage existing manufacturing assets and supply chains. Retrofit current assembly lines for hydrogen powertrains instead of starting from scratch. Use existing dealership or service networks for early hydrogen adoption. Convert existing diesel engine facilities to produce hydrogen internal combustion engines. Now, form strategic hydrogen supply and infrastructure partners. Collaborate with companies I showed before: Shell, Air Liquide, Linde, etc. Partner up with hydrogen fuel cell manufacturers. Work with governments. And this is nothing different than what I'm saying in terms of scale ups and startups, but as an established organization, the advantage that you have is your already existing manufacturing lines. So yes, secure your early customers and pilot fleet deployments. Offer hydrogen vehicle leasing models to logistics operators and municipalities. Target high emission industries looking for green fleet alternatives. These are mining, construction, and shipping. Key milestone. Well, when you're deploying the first pilot hydrogen fleet, which are your buses, trucks, or industrial vehicles, secure a long-term hydrogen fuel supply agreement. That is your biggest milestone. And once you have that agreement in place, there is no stopping to your company. Scaling hydrogen production, that is your phase two, is scaling hydrogen production and vehicle deployment. So convert existing vehicle lines to hydrogen variants, shift from diesel-powered commercial fleets to hydrogen fuel cells or H2 ICE alternatives, retrofit existing designs with hydrogen storage and power cell technology, develop modular platforms that support both hydrogen fuel cells and battery hydrogen hybrids, expand partnerships for hydrogen refueling and infrastructure support, optimize cost and manufacturing efficiency, expand customer base and international distribution. Phase 3 would be full-scale hydrogen transition and market leadership. Phase out commercial vehicle production of your own company. Remember, you can only spend your capital in one area. You cannot be your own competitor. So phase out your fossil fuel vehicle production after you have completed phases 1 and 2, where you have secured some sort of partnership and you have secured good funding and you have a working prototype. Now it's time to phase out your fossil fuel vehicle production. Set a target date for a complete transition from diesel or gasoline vehicles. Repurpose diesel engine factories for your hydrogen engine and fuel cell assembly. Yes, these drastic changes are needed. Expand hydrogen infrastructure investments. Partner with energy companies and utilities to develop hydrogen production hubs. Offer on-site hydrogen refueling solutions for fleet customers. Launch aftermarket hydrogen solutions. Introduce retrofitting services for existing fleets to convert to hydrogen. Offer hydrogen leasing and fuel subscription models for business fleets. Invest in next generation hydrogen technologies. Develop solid state hydrogen storage for increased range and efficiency. Optimize hydrogen battery hybrid systems for low cost solutions. Explore synthetic fuel and e-fuel integration with hydrogen technology. Your key milestone in this phase would be full transition to hydrogen fueled vehicle production, phase out all fossil fuel powered models. Capital requirements and funding strategies. That is what you see in your slide in front of you. You will have certain primary funding sources, and that is your government grants and subsidies for your R&D, infrastructure, and overall vehicle architecture, etc. Please do secure grants from the government. The second thing would be your investment funds. So for this, please look at green energy, mobility, and industrial application based funding companies, and of course your corporate bonds and bank loans. This kind of funding you can use towards factory conversion, scaling hydrogen production, etc. Joint ventures and public-private partnerships and strategic OEM and energy partner investments. This is also, consider this as a funding source as well, since you are trying to leverage your partner's infrastructure for yourself, for your business. So this can be done for hydrogen refueling stations, R&D collaborations, fuel cell deployment, fleet leasing programs, etc. The potential amount for each of these different types of sources are also listed on the rightmost column in your screen. For those of you who are listening to this podcast, a rundown of the potential amount would be 10 to 500 million from government funds, government grants, 50 plus million from specific investment companies, over 100 million from your corporate bonds and bank loans, and you have variable amount that you can leverage from your partnerships, and of course 50 to 300 million from investment partners. So there you go. Building a competitive edge, no matter where you are, whether you are a startup, an SME, or an established manufacturer transitioning to hydrogen, you need to have a long-term strategy for gaining a competitive edge, which is extremely essential for your sustainability in the long run and your profitability. Hydrogen technology is still in its growth phase, so companies must position themselves strategically to reduce costs, differentiate technology, and form key partnerships and dominate niche markets. Here is how you can do it. Cost leadership. You win by reducing hydrogen vehicle costs, right? Your final vehicle that you produce, the only way to win in the market for hydrogen automotives is by reducing cost. Hydrogen vehicles are generally more expensive than diesel and battery electric alternatives. And cost reduction is your game. That is the game you're playing. How to achieve cost leadership, how to lower your cost. Innovate fuel cell production to lower cost. Explore local hydrogen production to minimize transport cost. Streamline your manufacturing and avoid supply chain bottlenecks. How do you innovate fuel cell production to lower cost? Standardize fuel cell designs to reduce complexity and production expenses. Scale mass production of hydrogen powertrains to bring per unit costs down. Develop cheaper alternative materials to replace costly platinum based catalysts in fuel cells. In terms of exploring local hydrogen production, decentralized hydrogen production, on-site electrolysis or waste to hydrogen systems, they are quite significant. These are fields that are worth discussing. Partnering up with industrial hydrogen producers to access low cost supply, setting up regional refueling hubs near logistics corridors to avoid long distance hydrogen transport, and then streamlining manufacturing and avoiding supply chain bottlenecks. Invest in automation to improve hydrogen vehicle assembly. Use existing vehicle platforms. Develop local supplier networks for fuel cells, hydrogen tanks, and power electronics. Reducing costs through local hydrogen sourcing, mass production scaling, and supply chain optimization will make hydrogen vehicles cost competitive. Technological differentiation and building a superior hydrogen product. Why does it matter? It matters because competing only on price in a new market is risky. Breakthrough innovations will determine which hydrogen companies survive long term. How to achieve technological superiority. Develop fuel cells with longer lifespan and lower maintenance. Focus on next generation membrane technology to extend fuel cell durability. Use predictive maintenance AI to detect fuel cell degradation early on. Reduce catalyst degradation by developing high efficient cooling systems. Integrating AI driven fuel management for efficiency, AI powered energy optimization for balancing fuel consumption versus performance, real time fuel cell monitoring and predictive analytics to enhance vehicle range, and then smart refueling recommendations based on route optimization and fuel adaptability. They are already available in your electric vehicles like Tesla, Kia, Toyota, your Hyundai Kona, making these features more effective and more efficient and targeted towards driving fuel management. That is where the gold is. That is where the turning point is for your company. Now, creating hybrid hydrogen battery solutions for extended range. Combine fuel cells plus batteries for better efficiency in urban transport. By fuel cells, I mean hydrogen fuel cells, and batteries, I mean electric, just lithium ion batteries for electric vehicles. Plug in hydrogen hybrids allow fuel flexibility, electric for city use and hydrogen for long haul. At this stage, it's not the case, but that as a target, that you use hydrogen hybrids that will allow flexibility for your consumers, that you use electric for city use and hydrogen for long haul. Optimize energy recovery systems. Example, regenerative braking to recharge hydrogen battery systems. Your key takeaway is that companies that push the boundaries of fuel cell lifespan, AI optimization, and hybrid solutions will lead the hydrogen revolution. Strategic partnerships and supply chain control. Scaling faster and cheaper. And why does it matter? Well, hydrogen adoption depends on infrastructure, and building it alone for one company is not possible. Partnerships always reduce risks, costs, and time to market, of course. How to leverage strategic partnerships. Lock in early deals with hydrogen suppliers and logistic producers. Secure long-term fuel contracts. Partner with major logistics and fleet operators looking for hydrogen-powered trucks. Co-develop refueling solutions tailored for commercial and municipal fleets. Collaborate with government and energy companies. Participate in government-backed hydrogen infrastructure projects. Work with public transit agencies to supply hydrogen-powered buses. Secure green hydrogen incentives and subsidies to offset initial investments. Controlling the hydrogen supply chain for competitive advantage. Develop in-house hydrogen storage and distribution capabilities. Partner with electrolyzer manufacturers to produce green hydrogen locally. Create regional hydrogen hubs to serve multiple industries: transport, industrial, aviation, shipping, you name it. Companies that align with hydrogen infrastructure leaders and governments early on will gain a scaling advantage over your competitors. Remember that. First mover advantage in niche market, owning a hydrogen specialty. Now, listen, competing head on head with automotive giants is not sustainable. You will burn yourself out in no time. The best way to dominate the market is to own a niche where hydrogen has clear advantages. So, at this stage, the hydrogen is a low mileage. Hydrogen vehicles are low mileage vehicles. So, try and go for specialized vehicles. I talked about it for startups as well. Try and go for mining, construction, and industrial vehicles. So diesel powered mining trucks and construction machines are ideal for hydrogen retrofits. Hydrogen performs better in high load industrial applications than batteries. Companies like Komatsu and Caterpillar are already developing hydrogen construction vehicles. Aircraft manufacturers are exploring liquid hydrogen for long haul flights. Hydrogen fuel cells for short haul ferries, cargo ships, and military vessels are gaining traction. Companies like Airbus and Kawasaki are pioneering hydrogen aviation or marine solutions. Refrigerated transport and cold chain logistics. Hydrogen fuel cells provide constant power for refrigerated trucks and containers. Unlike batteries, hydrogen ensures continuous cooling even on long haul routes. Ideal for companies in food, logistics, pharmaceuticals, and temperature sensitive cargoes. Hydrogen retrofitting solutions for diesel fleets. Converting existing diesel trucks and buses to hydrogen internal combustion engines, and then faster and cheaper alternative to fully replacing diesel fleets. Companies like Cummins and Westport Fuel Systems are already leading hydrogen ICE development. So companies that own specific hydrogen niche will dominate before mass market adoption. That is for sure. So on your screen, people who are watching this instead of listening, you will see several different hydrogen niche markets to begin with. Give me a call if you want to talk further. We have to summarize this episode now. Breaking into the hydrogen automotive market, and what are your takeaways from this episode of this podcast? For startups, focus on niche markets. For SMEs, leverage existing brands. For established firms, scale up hydrogen adoption by repurposing your infrastructure and form global partnerships. Your winning strategy is that you should secure funding early, leverage existing infrastructure, and solve regulatory and scaling challenges. And of course, focus on commercial applications where hydrogen outperforms your EVs. Thank you so much for watching this episode. In the next episode, we are going to talk about the various different components in a hydrogen automotive, and therefore will show you how to actually build your own hydrogen automotive from scratch. I will also discuss about innovation, the areas of innovation, and cost reduction strategies for your hydrogen automotive startup or SME or established organization. Stay tuned.